share the video and you can watch this later on. So that's okay. It's all right. We just missed the little image slideshow, so that's all good. But anyway, so AI is made up of three different types. But what's really important is the definition on the other side, which really at its heart speaks to the power of what's being done and done very quickly. So the machines are much more powerful actually than the processing power of most things. And it's taking information and creating, especially in the case of generative AI, new ideas and new information. So it's taking what's known, adding some, algorithms to it and creating something new ideas. And those ideas are starting to become very persuasive, especially if you don't know. If you don't know about what's being put in front of you, and you might be going through normal human reactions like, oh, I don't want people to know that I don't know. Should I pretend like I do know? Should I just make a decision because I don't want to hold the team up? I don't want to look like I'm foolish or I'm not an expert. So when you're getting served up this information, you're getting engaged in decision-making processes where you don't know if it's real or if it's not. But the human condition is to potentially not admit to that. We now start to have really significant challenges in our workplaces and in our everyday lives. So we need to become far more adept to what are we going to do? What's in our hands? What can we control when it comes to this age of AI? So, really importantly, I just wanted to bring some of the benefits. It's not all doom and gloom. Actually, we're seeing some really amazing things emerging that AI is helping with. So, research tasks are just far quicker. Things like citations, going and finding where things are, those things are just sort of, they're turning into seconds rather than days and weeks. Really importantly, we're starting to see the sort of agent technology play out. We want to get to know you as our customer, and then we're going to start to suggest next best decisions to you from what we know of you and your buying behaviors and the way you've engaged with us. We're going to start sort of giving you these predictive things or the next best action things so that you can get faster time to decision and ultimately to, I guess, to the share of wallet. Really importantly, we're starting to see a lot quicker processing of requests to get to outcomes much faster, right? So we're now getting into the expectation almost as customers that we're going to get things much faster. We sort of have a low tolerance for things that are taking too long when we're used to them being much faster. Definitely this concept of human error is reducing as well. Humans decide emotionally, machines decide algorithmically. And so what's really powerful around some of these models is that it takes the emotion and the bias, well, sort of bias out of it, because actually there's plenty of bias in the models, but kind of what we see when it's algorithmic, like the computer says yes or no, is that it's actually taking out human error and kind of that emotional bias that gets applied, or that confirmation bias that gets applied when we're making decisions. We're definitely able to very quickly diagnose fraud much faster with people's behaviors and where things are coming from. Like, it's gone from like fully manual to fully kind of always on from everywhere around the globe through all of these sort of cloud data center holdings. So really importantly, we are getting to things faster. Human error is reducing, and actually we are as consumers getting stuff done quicker for us so that we can move on, especially the easy stuff or the basic stuff. So I'm just going to actually ask again into the chat, please. Let's keep it positive. Where have you had real benefit from AI to date? From what's out there, from your adoption of AI, where have you had real benefit? Where has it helped you in your day-to-day? What's improved for you? We'd love to hear from you. Where have you had real benefit from AI to date? And by the way, shout it out if you're happy to shout it out, or let us know in the chat. So Sachin, thanks. ChatGPT for templates. So let's not write a template from scratch anymore, because there'll be a million versions of it. So ChatGPT, give me the template for this. Assistance to create our company's marketing content. Yes, Colleen, we're definitely hearing from a marketing point of view that it's really expediting the creation of, or going to find certain images and marketing material and ideas. And I'm sure, Kathryn, you'll have a point of view on this as well. Siri phone AI for those sitting. short bursts for info retrieval. Okay, very good. That's an interesting one, Peyton. But given that you work in that call center environment, that definitely sounds like that it would really help. Productivity in research, setting up templates and planning. That's right, definitely, Caroline. Those research tasks are just like so snappy now, as before we'd have to look at lots of articles and lots of volumes of things. Oh, where did I put that article that I received at that workshop 3 weeks ago? Actually, now it's just fingertip. Notebook, LMs in summarizing docs. Okay, so a lot of very hands-on, administrative type of time-consuming tasks. Kathryn, anything from you at this stage? Any thoughts?
What I find of benefit, definitely for research, summarizing large amounts of information. Also in decision making, you can use it to, kind of map out what you're thinking. Obviously, nothing sensitive, but it can be really useful at helping you do like a 360 analysis. Have I considered everything? And I would never put anything sensitive into it. And you can also use this in your own personal life, just making a decision-making framework. It can really help speed that up. And also without emotion, like you said, show you some blind spots and things to consider. And it actually asks questions back, which can be really interesting at times where that takes you in your thinking, especially if it's after hours and there's no one else as a sounding board. It can really help with that kind of analysis as well.
Okay, fantastic. All right, well, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we were really thinking about that there is going to be a lot of positive to our everyday. And really, what's really powerful is that it will give us back time in our day to do truly value add, truly human-centric work that will actually add value to ourselves and to others, rather than some of the work that we have to do because there's no other alternative that this automation pathway, AI pathway, will just take away from us. Hallelujah, I say. All right. So reality is, if the robots or the AI or the machines are going to take away the repeatable, the predictable, the mundane, what's left for humans? And the reality is, the work that's left for us is really complex in nature. It requires emotional intelligence for processing, reasoning, and making decisions, critical thinking. And it also requires these human skills to allow us to work in the groups that are going to be solving problems together. Because of the nature of the complexity of what's left for humans, it'll be very, very rare for us to get to make these big decisions or to innovate on our own. We will need to work in teams to problem solve and get the diversity of thinking to get the really great and innovative approach in that unknown world. And so the skills, according to all the research out there, these skills, or the skills that humans are going to need to do really, really well to remain authentic, to remain effective, to remain impactful, are these human skills. And the human advantage, of course, is that the competencies that actually, and by the way, this is not new. This is not AI has brought this about. This has been, the truth in terms of what really matters in terms of our performance at work. This has been true through decades, but now it's just becoming a lot more prevalent and obvious. And that is that the top performers, the competencies of top performers, the most impactful people, the most inspirational people, the people that actually can lead really well, can perform really well. The domain which allows them to perform that way is emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is made up of this kit bag of, I guess, skills that come together to help you to not only be more emotionally intelligent, to be more impactful. All right, so authenticity, really importantly, is sort of something that we need to focus on when we don't know what's real, when we don't know kind of what's expected of us. So how do you continue to authentically communicate in the age of AI in our workplaces? Now, why is communication so important? Because communication builds trust and trust and connection builds high performance in organizations. Without communication, you can't build trust and connection. Without trust and connection, you can't perform in a high way, you can't be in a high performing team in a high performing organization. Overwhelming research. I don't need to tell you guys, we live it every day. That's the truth. All right. So, Kathryn, I might get you. Do you want to step through some of these? I think people have had enough of my dulcet tones.
No. So if we're talking about using generative AI in communication, these are some of the things that you need to consider. Is that it can invent false facts and fabricated studies. AI is known to hallucinate. So without human review and fact checking, you could end up putting out misleading or false claims that can damage your credibility. I asked ChatGPT to write me a bio. I gave it my link from LinkedIn, and apparently I work at the Australian Financial Review. I've never worked at the Australian Financial Review. So if you don't carefully check things and cross-reference, and anything that is a fact or a stat that's coming out of an AI or a supposed study, you've got to go and actually spend the time and cross-reference it. Because if you put it out there, then that's something that you become personally liable for, or the business becomes liable for if you're putting it out as a marketing or a communications message publicly. So it's very important around that. The other thing is around security, data leaks. And this is one area that we are kind of, those of us that are working in cybersecurity PR are waiting to kind of blow up, which is where employees start putting in confidential information potentially before public release. When they're drafting content for marketing and communications into the Gen AI tool without the right security settings, whether or not even with the security settings is safe is another issue. But once you give information on your business, your company to AI, it now has it. And so that can be used for different things, competitor advantage or leverage, but you're basically also training it on highly sensitive and confidential information, which if you were to put it into another, system outside the business would be considered a security risk. So that's something to consider. In terms of media visibility and permanence, it's always been the case that if you've said something that you regret, if you've made a mistake, if that becomes public, we've seen it recently with the whole Coldplay thing, AI now makes that stick for a lot longer. We used to talk about the Google fairy. If you've had a negative, story come out, that it sticks around. But with AI, there are bots, pushing it on social media, turning it into videos, and just regenerating it as content and copy over and over again, making it even harder for you to overcome that. So, yeah, this is where communication comes into it, and being very careful about what you say in the public environment, because it can haunt you. Lack of cultural context. We see a lot of brands, fall into this where they may have used AI, or they've just not considered what they're saying and how it might come across for different, cultural sensitivities. So you've really got to think about, the nuance. And as a human, you've really got to fact check everything if you're going to be using AI to write copy or come up with campaign ideas, because you've got to do that 360 check I was talking about before, is how is this going to sound to different audiences, and just be careful about that. And finally, I'd say AI can't build relationships. It can't foster relationships with your peers, your colleagues. It can't do face-to-face communication with journalists or the C-suite or the board or at events, or even just talking to your customers. So that's something that's a uniquely human skill, and as Ren said, is only going to become more important as this AI arms race heats up.
Thanks, Kathryn. Wow, that was comprehensive. Any questions of Kathryn? I mean, you don't get to speak to someone of her experience every day. Anyone got any questions for Kathryn at this stage, while what she's just talked about is fresh?
I think for me, obviously, so my big thing is I come from an era of university study when AI was first introduced, and it was a very much a negative idea around, and it's like, you can't touch it, you'll get kicked out, that's not going to happen. And now I know that conversation's changing. How do you start to change, acknowledge the risks, but start to change that conversation, especially within workplaces? Because I think it's that same step of going from no, no, no to start to incorporate it. And obviously want to, acknowledge these risks are risks, but still do it in a positive way. How do you
I think it depends if your business that you're working in is using a proprietary AI that they have built and that they have it secure for employees to use. That's obviously much more preferred than just a chat GPT or a Gen AI that's open source. So if your business has invested in building LLMs and tools for you to use, I think that is what you should use. And also it's put all its own security and parameters around it. If that's not in place, then you just need to be careful that you're always only feeding it with certain information. You don't put confidential business matters into it. You can describe something without giving the actual detail to kind of, get what you need. So you're writing a better prompt to source the information. Does that answer the question or?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Thank you.
The
And
other
at
thing
the
I
end of
would
the, oh,
add.
sorry, Kathryn, please.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just going to say, in terms of young people coming through using AI, so I have a 16-year-old daughter who's a Gen Z, and I suggested her that she could do some research and she could use ChatGPT if she wanted. And the reaction the other day was extreme. It was like, no, that's going to use gallons of water. It's bad for the environment. Don't touch it. And it was kind of the first time I've heard from a young person that really strong reaction and avoidance to using it because it's bad for the environment. And I just wonder, with that generation that's going to hit university next and then hit the workforce, how they're going to view some of this. I don't know if others are coming up against that yet.
Yeah, I'm sort of the top. Sorry, I'm interrupting other questions, but yeah, I'm sort of the top end of the Gen Z as well, and it's definitely that phase of like it's been so entrained in me of like the issues with it when it comes to like energy and stuff, and then also just like the idea of where's the limit of how much we rely on AI and how much we rely on ourselves and our own skills. And so yeah, it's very interesting to have that sort of conversation as we move into a more AI focused business.
Yeah, and Peyton, I think to your point, it's actually both. It's the and, which is why I really wanted to start us off on the right track to say AI can be incredibly powerful, particularly as it emancipates us humans to do the critical only humans can do type of work. What's critical though is that we learn to adopt the skills to know, and again, it does center into self-awareness, emotional intelligence. What is it time for now? Do I have enough information where I can move forward because I believe what's being said here? Or am I allowing my confirmation bias to lead and I'm actually just accepting whatever the computer says because actually that's what I fundamentally in my heart want to believe? So and that's where this critical thinking and problem solving in this age of AI to stay authentic and true, and as Kathryn pointed out, not to sort of completely derail my brand, what people know of me, my credibility, is a very, very fine line. And we need to very quickly catch up as humans to set ourselves up for success there. Any other questions? Great question, Peyton. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, no. All right. Well, let's talk now about personal. Sorry, please, Hannah. Yes, sorry.
No, there are questions in the chat.
Oh, fantastic. Sorry. I will have a look.
Their own internal version of AI. I mean, that would be the preference that you use one that the business has bought and is controlling and is all secure and ideally has built it on its own data and criteria that it wants used. I think that's going to be much better than just something that's open source. I don't have a recommendation on one over the other. I won't kind of, go there on what I think is better.
Because there's going to be 5 million of them. I mean, that's the reality,
and it's
Kathryn,
impossible
isn't
for
it?
me to know all of them and to have
Yeah.
experienced all of them. So I won't make a judgment there.
But it is a really good question because fundamentally, a lot of the people that I'm talking to are grappling with, well, is one better than the other? Is one more credible than the other? Is one more believable than the other? Is the OpenAI one better than the Google one or whatever? I mean, the reality is they're searching from these big dark hole data sets. Like it is a sea of black out there in terms of the unknown. And that's why the only thing we can do, us humans, is to work out how we are going to go about verifying something before we take the next best action.
Just check everything. That's what I would say.
It's down to. Yeah.
Check.
Yeah.
And consider
Also,
how
Please go ahead, Kathryn. Sorry,
Oh, no,
please go
sorry, I
ahead.
was going to say, and also just consider how it's going to be interpreted by different audiences. So you've got to think about the different people that are going to hear this message and how are they going to resonate with it. And just think from that point of view, not just the facts and the stats, but also the social barometer. Even if that's just in a business and you're presenting it within teams, how is it meeting their needs? How are they likely to respond to this? And that human oversight is important.
Thanks, Kathryn. Okay, so personal brand with integrity. I mean, at the end of the day, we run personal brand aligned of human skills. What is it all?
Sorry, Ren, you broke up a lot there for me, so I didn't catch it.
Okay, I'm going to stop the video. I think around our personal brand is critical to kind of what we are known for, and these sort of 4 pillars are really the pillars that we think through when it comes to keeping it and our visibility. And I wondered whether you perhaps take us through that.
Sure. So when it comes to building a personal brand, if you think about this through a career journey, it's not just the role that you're in now.
We're nearly there.
Yeah, it's thinking about what you stand for and what you want to be known for and where you're going in the future and where you hope to go. And so you want to build a brand that follows you through all the different roles you may have in a career and all the different organizations. And so you want to kind of embed that to your values and what you believe in, and communicate that really clearly is the story of your own personal brand and your career journey. So you want to make sure that you're always living with integrity, that you're communicating in a way that's trustworthy, and that you're building your credibility for the long term. And that should flow across all communications. So whether that's face-to-face with teams, whether that's how it comes through when you're posting on social, always consider, what you want to be known for, and anchor it back to those values. The role of storytelling and lived experience, I think, is really key when we're seeing all of these AI videos and we don't know if anything's real. We've got influencers that are, apparently living these wonderful lives that are just a bot, and people didn't notice last week that it did say she was a bot. People believe she was real at all these fabulous events. So people don't know what to trust and they don't know who to trust. So you want to kind of build yourself and your personal brand around being real, raw, authentic. So if you make a mistake, you own it, you say so, and you offer how you're going to do things differently going forward. If with awareness, you learn more, you regret something you've done, you are that real, credible person. And I think that builds a lot more trust in you. And also the way you communicate is not just to how you're being seen, it's real. So you might share some of the challenges, some of the things that you've learned, some of the things that have been difficult, and telling stories that are very human, very relatable. And I think that's important when there's just so many things out there, if you scroll on social media, that you no longer know, is it real at all? Talking about ghostwriting and content repurposing, I always think you should focus on your own original ideas if you can. You can take inspiration from others, but that it's always good to kind of have your own personal lens that you see the world through and communicate from your values. I'm not sure, Ren, if you had another thought there with that last bullet point.
No, and I think across all of them, Kathryn, you used our buzzwords: self-awareness, effective communication, values. What's so important for all of us is that we do the work that we often are not conditioned to do, and that is build the understanding of ourselves through that lens. I mean, how many of us have really thought about our values, our drivers, what we want our voice to be? Like we do that work in branding, don't we? Like when I started Maxme, I got this like whole document of colors and voice and, what we're saying out there and what we need to be sort of intending by the images that we put out there. I was astounded. Like, I'd never really seen work like that done so thorough. But who does that on themselves? Nobody. We are not spending the time working our own brand, being brand me, because in a world where it's moving to, is this real or not? You know, as you pointed out, the terrible Coldplay thing that I don't want to spend any time talking about, but, you know, 2 bots that went out there with apologies from people that weren't real. It was being posted out there as some sort of statement from a person that wasn't real. It looked like the person, it maybe spoke in the voice of the person. I don't even know how people knew it wasn't real, but it wasn't real. So we need to take control of as much as we can. And as Kathryn said, first of all, be very careful of what you put out there in the first instance. And we talk about this a lot in our school programs to kids, not thinking about their digital footprint at all, just kind of in the wild doing whatever they want to do, right, at the moment. And it can come back and bite you. And recruiters are looking, people are looking, they're gauging who we are through this presence. And as AI continues to power ahead, it's only going to get faster and more and bigger. And we're going to potentially lose control of the things that are important to us. And that's who we are and our impact. So definitely, definitely, this sort of upskilling that we're obsessing about, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about. It's not because we don't have better things to do. Of course, this is the stuff. This is the stuff. Yeah.
And I think
Yeah,
empathy and
please.
compassion, we haven't touched on that much, but I think, I mean, that is something that generally is harder to fake. So if you've embedded into your values, you know what you're passionate about, you know what you care about, you know what you want to align to, then you can communicate in a way that is very human. It's not manufactured. And I think that is key as well, that, you know, you kind of talk from a place of heart and wisdom rather than just, you know, trying to get attention and clicks. I think people see through that very quickly at the best of times, but especially when they're not sure what is real, it really helps to, yeah, to remember that as well. And just think about, because I kept thinking with some of the things that have happened recently is, where's the compassion? They are humans.
Of
They're in
course.
children.
Flawed just like all of us, Kathryn.
There's
Every
all
one of
of
us.
these people around it, you know, and you've got a company that, you know, has been pulled into the spotlight through, you know, these human actions. But I just think sometimes, you know, you just need to weigh up, do I even want to comment on some of the things that go past me? Is this the thing that I want to, you know, comment on? Or if you're sharing in a personal way, and it might reflect badly, as Ren said, if a recruiter looks at you, do you have an alias that no one knows is you? If you need to do that with a certain group of people, and then you have your privacy settings set down quite strictly, you just need to think about, how am I going to protect my personal brand throughout my career journey? And be
Where
intentional.
now it's so much other people. Like we're public property now. All of us are public property now. And whether we like it or not, when we can't avoid it, or, you know, basically, because you can't. Every interaction that we have is now public property. All right, so we'll just have one more little quick activity here. So how are you maintaining your authenticity when many things around you feel fake or staged? You know, let's use the chat, you know, call out if you've got a point of view. There'll be people on this call also from the Maxme team that I'd love to hear from you around how you are maintaining your authenticity when everything is feeling fake or staged. I know for me, I'm a person that loves interacting with people in physical spaces. So I'm starting to see a lot of guidance out there now, which is saying that people are craving people to people interactions so that they can gauge connection, gauge, you know, realness versus, you know, behind a kind of keyboard warrior type of scenario. So for me, as often as I can, I talk to people over the phone, or I meet them either, you know, in the virtual world, i.e., because if I can't physically be in the same space as them, I'm starting to crave more and more of those physical interactions to make sure that I can look at body language, I can read voice, I can be present, I can listen and really connect with before making decisions. What are some others doing? I'd love to hear from you. How are you maintaining authenticity when many things around you are feeling fake or staged? Lovely, Kathryn. Yeah, sharing advice from learned experience, which is so important as well. Just I want to pause on that one. I've had a lot of conversations around this concept of Gen Zs coming out of uni now and hitting workplaces with no experience. And a lot of the work that they would typically do to get that experience and get knowledge is being automated. So that runway that they would have had to have got some level of credibility or knowledge or expertise that they can then look at something and go, is that real or is that not? That's disappearing. So it's upon people like us, the sage people, and there are a few of them on this call today, to share knowledge, to give the gift of our time, to be available, not seem like we're so busy that people can't ask questions, because it's those questions and that knowledge and that sharing of expertise that's really going to help, particularly our young workforce, our career starters, to get the knowledge so that they can then look at these things and understand what's real and what's not. Thanks, Kathryn. That's so true. Any other thoughts?
I was just going to add, from my perspective, one of the things I've been doing the last couple of years on that theme of sharing advice from my experiences. I've been in PR now for 28 years. So I'm putting out a lot of free information, like via my LinkedIn. I share lots of tips and tricks and my perspectives, and debunk certain, misconceptions. And I do all of that. And then I had a column as well for 3 years in Koshi's Business Builders. So for me, because I'm heading into, my 50th year next year, it's about giving back as well. That's part of my value, is not just keeping this information, locked up for me and the clients that pay me, but sharing it more widely. And I am mentoring a current student doing PR at RMIT at the moment, and I'm helping her. And then through this, I'm helping some of her friends, and I'm passing messages on to try to help them as they go into internships and they go into their first roles. And it's not what the universities teach. It's that real, raw, this is what you'll actually do when you start, in your first job. You won't be writing a strategy on day one. I know the universities teach you to, but you're actually going to be building a media list and calling journalists. So you'll need to be comfortable on the phone. Some of these things that you know from being in an industry are going to help people. And this is a great example of where if a young person is starting in comms or marketing or sales or any of these other roles, and they're not comfortable talking on a telephone, they've never done it before, you need to start. Just call your mom, call other people because
Or come to Maxme and we'll give you some skills to do it as well,
you
Kathryn.
can't just text. You're going to need that
No.
verbal communication. You're going, and I see my daughter, even when I call, my 16-year-old doesn't call me, she texts me back. What?
And we do a bit of that in some of our communication programs. We talk about the fact that there are the overuse of digital messaging is actually killing effective communication, which is killing trust and rapport, which is killing high performance. And because we are not used to, particularly our career starters, on having those more complex, serious conversations face to face, or let's say over the phone, text is not okay. But they don't know that. And
No.
they will use that and very quickly derail their brand. Okay, anyone else want to share? There was a comment really around the recruitment process. So I think the onboarding process and the recruitment process is a really great time to connect with new candidates and ask some questions of them. Bring them into your culture, bring them into the cultural expectations, the values and the drivers of the organization, and make sure that they're clear on what's expected of them, or that they can ask questions, that they should ask questions, that we expect them to ask questions, because so many people are still afraid to, because they don't want to be seen not to be the expert. But who's an expert on any of this anymore? We're not, right? Let's be honest, the world's changed. This whole subject matter expertise stuff, that's starting to be really, really, really challenged everywhere in the world.
It's really about asking insightful questions. And that's what you should focus on, not trying to prove you have a lot of knowledge, because as Ren said, that none of us have a lot of knowledge on this. We're going into some new frontiers, but it's that critical thinking and that ability to ask those insightful questions. Even if you're asking them when you're writing AI prompts, people who will be able to ask the good questions to help make things move forward, or to understand how to connect and resonate better. And this comes back to understanding the person you're communicating with. And you need, in business, it's going to be around their role, what they're trying to achieve, the lens that they're coming at it from. So the more you can kind of think about their perspective, the more you can kind of come up with something that's going to be what you know, it will resonate with them. And you do have to think about it across different audiences. It's just never one size fits all. And that's what makes that human face-to-face communication thrilling, but also a bit more complex.
Sorry. All right. Finally, we just want to really quickly touch on this concept of ethics. And, you know, it's getting a lot of airplay. There's policy being published around the globe, really, thinking about this sort of ethics. Just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should do it. And we get to decide. I keep saying this to people. AI is only ever going to take over if we let it. We get to decide what we're okay with and not okay with. We get to decide the questions we ask. We get to decide whether we disengage from a process because it is not aligned to what's right and what's not. So really importantly, from an ethics or I guess an authenticity, trust building, really importantly, being yourself, and back to what we talked about in the workshop, which is build what brand you want for yourself, what voice you want to speak in, who you want to be, who you want to be known for, and then keep showing up like that. Because that's the other thing that erodes trust. Is like, hang on, you told me in the interview you were this, but actually you're turning up like this every day. This is not the way that we are experiencing you as a person or your values, the values you said you had. So really work out who you are and then keep showing up, even when things get hard. Because when things get hard and when we start getting stressed and we're worried about the unknown and loss and all those things that get in the way of us being our best version, that's the time that it's hardest to keep showing up, you know, calm, cool, collected, and authentic. So let's really work on those things in good times before it gets to the crazy times and we're really challenged in being able to do that. And very importantly, take responsibility for what you put out there. Like, don't blame others. Oh, it was the engine. Oh, it was like at the end of the day, taking accountability and, you know, one, avoiding it if possible, but then owning up to mistakes, as Kathryn said rightly through this, through the earlier in the workshop. Just admit to it, like, you know, just call it and say, hey, I did this. I didn't even realize what I was doing. It's all new to me. What can we do about it? How can we recover from here? Don't really try and, you know, pretend like it didn't happen, because it will be found out. Like most things, not just an age of AI thing. There's just most things in life is just be authentic and honest. Really importantly, say what needs to get said and give as much information as possible. You know, as Kathryn said as well, you know, she makes the time to actually give as much information into the system as possible, share knowledge and be transparent, because the more we can collectively learn from each other as well is just going to really get us all there much more effectively. And really importantly, how am I going to use it? Again, wanting to stress, we get to choose. Choice is ours. No one's doing it to us. And that diagram that we had earlier, which is self-leadership and leadership of others, we say to everyone, emotional intelligence lives in both of those worlds. But the most powerful leader you will ever have in your life is yourself, because you're the only one that actually gets to control you. Other people can try to control you. You can try and control others, but actually you don't get to control them. You might influence them. You might plead with them, you might bribe them, whatever. Don't bribe them. But, you know, at the end of the day, the most powerful leader you'll ever have is yourself. You get to choose how you show up, what you engage in, what you disengage from. It's in your hands. Authenticity in the age of AI is definitely in your hands. Kathryn, anything to add there?
No, I was just going to say about if you do make a mistake, the easiest way to solve it is just to acknowledge it and say, if you need to say sorry, but just acknowledge it. Don't deflect, don't blame, don't shirk responsibility, don't have had a personal problem if you've never mentioned it before. Just acknowledge the feedback and then talk about how you can do things differently next time to move forward, because nothing destroys trust in a person and credibility faster than when you deflect or blame or don't take it on board. If you do that, the problem almost goes away instantly in your reaction. And a lot of young people, I think, are frightened, and it takes them a number of years to work that out. And some adults never, you know, mature adults never work that out. But, and it goes the same with public statements. You know, if you regret something in hindsight, if you didn't have awareness at the time and you do now, just say so. It's not as big a deal as what people think it is. It's all of the reactions that make it into that. You can neutralize some of these things a lot quicker if you just
And guess
acknowledge
what,
and
Kathryn?
hear the person's perspective.
And
Sorry.
they're likely to be in the same boat as you, because again, back to the, and not, again, I know I said I don't want to actually raise it, but this seeking of perfection, and we saw it come out in the absolute takedown, brutal takedown of what happened after the Coldplay concert. Surely people know that their backyard has to be clean before they start mowing other people's backyards. I mean,
Yep.
seriously.
Yep.
So really importantly, remember you are a flawed human, a work in progress, and so is the next person. And the more we recognize that about each other and really lean in and own that together, the better we're all going to be getting there through this molasses that we're all walking through at the moment and trying to work it out together. Yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of a passionate conversation. Well, are there any questions or thoughts from anyone at this stage of our workshop or of our webinar? Any questions from anyone? All right. Well, hopefully we've left you all with some food for thought. You know, Kathryn and I are both contactable if you want to reach out and just pick our brains on anything. As always, of course, the Maxme team are available to come along and just chat further with you guys, as is Kathryn, by the way, around any of your needs in terms of upskilling, PR, marketing, wisdom, or whatever it looks like. So thank you so much for joining the conversation. Really enjoyed this conversation with you, Kathryn. Every time I speak to you, your wisdom is so overwhelming, but your realness, your humanness, time and time again, you're very inspirational. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us today and for making the time and blessing us with your thoughts and insights and experience.
Thank you. And thank you for having me and everyone for joining us today.
All right, brilliant. See you, everyone. Bye. Bye.
Bye.